it's not PC to say this, but Ukraine was super corrupt when I was there. The people were awesome. I'm not saying that the government isn't worth helping or the fight against the Russians isn't worth supporting. I'm just saying that place was corrupt as shit when I was there. I got robbed by customs on the way out. The customs agents, they went through all my stuff. They took a bunch of my money. They took a bunch of stuff that I bought. They told me I wasn't going to fly. Then they rushed my onto that plane at the last second because they didn't want me stuck there with no flight. That's even worse because then it's like, okay, I guess I got to go to the U.S. Embassy and tell them exactly what happened.
Right.
And this guy was like, don't you think it's a little ethnocentric to say we have a better system of government than places like Iran and North Korea? And I was like, no. And I was like, have you ever visited a place that has a hostile government where the people are afraid of the government? Have you ever? And he's like, no, I encourage you to get a visa and go to Iran. This is years ago.
Right.
You're going to find out that you are free in Alabama or Idaho or wherever you live.
Yeah.
It is not even close. But when I started doing security at the dangerous places, I learned a lot about de-escalation. I learned a lot about like violence because you see a lot of real violence when you work at a dangerous place like that. You see people get shot. You see people do like curbside beatdowns that are just severe. This was like, that guy's never, is he alive? Like he just got stomped so hard by 7 people that he's dead.
Well, it's the land of the free and home of the brave. Stairs in the house of the community. Well, leave them alone and what they're gonna say. With the clean back, like and Marcus here to stay.
My next guest is a true Renaissance man, an ex-computer hacker, a world traveler of authoritarian countries, speaks 5 languages, was kidnapped twice, once in Mexico, once in Serbia, has experience in securities work with high-end clients as an attorney on Wall Street, started as far back as 2006 a podcast based on relationship building and became known as a relationship expert. About 5 years ago, he started a brand new podcast and has since, with pure hustle, built this thing to 6 million downloads a month, interviewing everyone from world leaders to athletes to artists to Nobel Prize winners. This guy has a story to tell, yes, but he is a dude with the same types of feelings that we all have. But as you know, we all want to learn from somebody who's been around the world and back 80 times like this cat. So without further ado, please help me in welcoming to the podcast my good friend, Mr. Jordan Harbinger.
I went to Lake Tahoe and I was like, I really want ice cream. And the kids were good. Let's get some ice cream sundaes. Where are we going to get that? Room service has it's probably going to be like $100, whatever. It'll be a treat. So I ordered a room service and they're like, what toppings do you want on your 3 scoops of ice cream? And I was like, what are my options? They're like, gummy bears, bananas, berries, whipped cream. And I was like, how much are these? And they're like, well, the ice cream is like $13 per scoop. And I'm like, geez,
Per scoop?
something crazy. It might have been like $10 or something.
Yeah.
And then they're like, but the toppings are free. And I was like, give me all of the toppings. And they're like, okay. So it was $27 total for, so, it was, the scoops were $8 each. But then there was like it ended up being $27 total. So like 3 scoops was marginally more expensive than
Minus
one.
the facilities fee.
And then they brought in this like huge cart and everything was on a separate plate and they had like peanut butter and Nutella and whipped cream and like a centerpiece that looked like a swan and the ice cream. And the guy came in with like the metal thing and he was like, all right, guys, are you ready for this? And he was like, Pshang! And the kids were like, yeah. And I'm like, well, that's room service.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, this guy was like, hey, here's your stupid fucking salad. You're not getting a fork either, bitch. You know?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so I'm eating this like sad salad with no fork.
Oh my
And I was just like, okay, if you're going to rip me off, like make me feel like, well, okay, I got.
Right. No, I completely agree.
made
I mean,
sense.
that's the whole with any business. I
Yeah.
think if you're not over serving, then you're missing the boat anyway.
Yes.
That's the whole point.
Yeah. It's like,
too many people just try to just match what they say and try to save every penny. Like,
Right.
dude, just overserve and it comes back.
yeah,
and
over
10
deliver.
10x.
Like it's not gonna. And plus, if I'm happy, then it's like, well, now I want to tip all your employees heavy
Right.
because they are killing it for me. even I got, like the place is just poorly managed. Like you can't leave this in the show, right? But like the place is poorly managed. This morning I go and I order a coffee and I'm like, it says $9. This is $18. She's like, oh, I don't know. And then the guy's like, oh, I made you a double latte. And I was like, well, I asked for a single latte. You're charging me $5 extra for it. And then there's tax, and then there's a service charge, and then there's a breakfast surcharge on top of that, which you pay, which is 20%. So I was like, yeah, no, I'm not paying that. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, no, you don't have to throw the latte away. I'll drink it, but you're going to adjust the price to what it says on the menu. And he was like,
which is that should have been his decision.
Yes.
It's like, because I'm not going to go throw this away and bring you a single.
Right.
Go ahead and keep this if you like.
Exactly.
Unless you don't want it. Then.
Yeah, exactly. So then she's like huffing and like adjust the bill. And I'm like, I'm going to sit through the pressure and awkwardness of you doing this because I don't care. You are knowingly trying to screw me. I'm going to sit here and be like, and then when the thing comes and it's like additional gratuity, it's like big ol' X.
And you hate to have to be a dick. Yeah. Because they should totally handle this.
Exactly.
Because whenever we're at some place and they make any error at all, I love when they're like, they don't say anything, but they come out and you look at the bill, they're like, wow, they didn't even charge me for half that stuff because whatever. And then I'll tip them according to what it would have been.
Right. 100, always.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, if you're trying to eke out an extra $2 because you overcharged me on this and then therefore the service charge is higher, therefore I'm just going to be annoyed and put 0 on the additional gratuity line.
Right.
Like some people might not pay attention. You've been getting away with this for so long that this is your game, but like not today.
Style.
And then when the hotel's like, how was your stay? I'm going to be like, it was okay, but your staff ripped me off 3 times. And I'm never coming back because there's a million hotels in LA.
And that's the main thing is that you won't return. I mean, like I said, they're not going to lose money on you.
No.
I mean, they could say, hey, you can eat free all weekend. You're not going to lose money.
Right. No, exactly. And the other thing is like, you have like, you stay in a lot of hotels. You probably have like some status or something. And it's like, do you want to tell your titanium status people that they should go to any other place in LA because you are in the business of making everything kind of stupidly expensive? Why would you do that?
Right.
Like what's the idea? And
unless they just say, hey, it's stupidly expensive, but if you sign up for our program, then it'll be cheap. But they've lost their trust by then.
Again, and like to your earlier point, I don't even mind overpaying. It's okay, you overpay for stuff at hotels. Just make it awesome.
Yeah.
And then it's like part of the trip. Not like this, there's difference, right? There's like Ritz-Carlton overpaying where you're like, this was too expensive, but man, that was cool. Like the Disneyland overpaying. And then there's airport overpaying where you're like, are you fucking kidding me? This is an $8 Diet Coke and it's in a can. Like I'm just offended now.
And I still have to sit around in this standing room only, little cramped, little whatever.
So it's like, make it Disney overpaying. Don't make it airport overpaying.
Right.
Because I don't have a choice if I'm going to fly out of San Francisco. I have a choice if I'm going to stay in LA.
Yeah.
So like you lose every time long term. I don't know. Anyway, that's not why I'm here.
No, but I mean, it actually kind of parallels a lot of it because you are you're an entrepreneur and you're a business cat, and those principles don't carry over as much as people would think.
Yeah.
Not only do people think entrepreneurship is like a given that anybody could do it, but they also don't understand the pressure of trying to work or provide beyond the expectation what it is. And it's the extra effort.
That's right.
And then they start thinking, well, where's the value in it for me? But like that's down the road, fool. I mean, you're not making your first buck on day one anyway.
That's right. That's right. And in fact, I want to write down that airport overpaying idea. You can edit this out of the final
great.
copy.
I think it's a great idea.
Airport overpaying versus Disney overpaying. This is how I come up with LinkedIn ideas for my LinkedIn posts. I'm like whining about something to a friend, and I'm like, that's actually kind of a clever thing that this person just said, or like, and I'm like, I'm gonna rearrange that and make it sound like I thought of it.
It is. It's a great analogy because you're going to overpay in the airport every single time, but you're stuck there.
But you're stuck there. So that's how they get you, right? But like, I don't know why this is lost on other places. Like you are a random hotel in Beverly Hills. You are not Disney. You don't get to dictate how ridiculous this is going to be.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just find it so obnoxious that businesses do that. And people should be more, should complain more about this or like enforce. What they're counting on is that it's too awkward for you to go, I'm not paying for this, readjust the bill. because most people won't do that. They'll just go,
especially in a hotel where they know you can damn sure afford it because you're there.
right. Like
So
I could basically feel this woman going, this guy is paying however many $100 per night and he won't pay $18 for a cup of coffee. And it's like, I'm paying for the value of the room. You're not giving me any additional value. I like $9 for a coffee. I was already like, damn. But when you're doubling it with nonsense, no, not today. Not today.
Golly, that's so frustrating. And then that follows you because you get a stigma because you're somebody that somebody might recognize.
Oh man,
and
I
then
think about that all
the
the
next thing you see is somebody, well, this asshole doesn't even tip, which is not even true.
Yeah, not true.
But you would get that.
Exactly.
Which is an insult to injury.
I have to think about that stuff. So I'll tell you a little trick. Sometimes I have my either wife, assistant, producer, like go and handle everything like that for me. And
disassociate.
Yes,
yourself,
because
sort of.
then it's like Jordan Harbinger came here and they didn't tip. Oh, he didn't tip? Well, actually, it was like his assistant or like somebody who paid the bill. And that way I can be like, I had no idea. Meanwhile, I'm like, you do not. This was terrible service. Yeah. But I will also talk to the man. If it's bad, like I'm talking to the manager about that stuff. Because there's a part of me, and it's probably the part of me that wanted to go to law school. I won't say I like conflict because I don't think a healthy person does. But there's a part of me that's like, I'm a little bit of a Karen where I'm like, I'm not going to get an employee in trouble for something that's not their fault or whatever. In fact, even if something is their fault, sometimes I'm like, this person doesn't need extra stress today. I try to be really compassionate about that. But like when they're like, how was your stay? I am going to mention the nonsense on every little part of the bill and be like, you guys are penny wise, pound foolish.
Well, and as a business owner, that's valuable, actually.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah, well, you would hope. I mean, because otherwise, if they're insulted because you're nitpicking at things, I mean, like I always tell people, like, well, how am I supposed to fix something that I don't know exists?
Exactly.
So you got to have this manager that you talk to has no clue that you're getting ripped.
That's right. And people will say like, oh, I don't want to be annoying, but like this function of your website doesn't work well. And I'm like, thank you. Why didn't anybody else tell me that? I got to fix that. You're right. This is so janky and annoying. Or like someone will say like, I know you have to mark it, but this pop-up on mobile covers my whole screen. And I'm like, what? And then I'm like, oh, this is crap. I got to remove that right away. No one can use the website.
Right, and you're grateful for it.
That's how I found out about problems. So I'm always grateful for that kind of feedback.
Yeah.
And I feel like businesses often, they are like, you get those, you stay at a hotel and you get that email that comes back that's like, we're curious about your stay. I'll be like, ChatGPT, write 3 paragraphs about the following annoying things, and then I'll dictate it right while I'm driving or something. And then it writes this really nice long email. And I'll send that to the manager, and they're kind of like, nobody ever replies to this email. Yeah. Thank you. This is really interesting. And you know what I found to be quite interesting is sometimes I'll get an email from like, if you stay at a nice brand, especially.
Yeah.
In Lake Tahoe or something, we used a bunch of points and we stayed at like a Ritz-Carlton, like, oh, very fancy, right? And I don't usually roll like that, but like, you got a bunch of points, you got your family with you, I'm going to do it.
Okay. Yeah.
And I remember being like, they were like, how was your stay? And I was like, this was confusing and this seems like it just cost too much. And the guy goes, I'm just going to remove all these. And it was like $380 worth of charges. And I was like, you don't have to remove every breakfast. Because they had charged my kids for the breakfast buffet, and my kids are 3 and 6, so they ate like 3 blueberries and a pancake.
Right.
And I was like, that cost me $70 per day. And the guy's like, that's not cool. No, that's ridiculous. I was like, I can't get her to eat more than this.
Yeah.
That cost me $70 per day. Like he was like, I got kids. I'm just not, I can't I'm not making you pay this. That's insane.
Yeah. And you weren't even asking to take it off.
I wasn't. I was like, can you cut this in half? Because the kids like barely ate. And he was like, I'm not making your kids pay at all. So I was like, I told my wife, I go, we're obviously staying here whenever we can. Because that was awesome.
Yep.
And yes, someone's like, oh my God, they cut $370 off your bill or whatever it ended up being for the whole time. And I'm like, yeah, but they're going to make thousands of dollars off of me in the future.
Yep.
Because I will never think I'm going to get ripped off at this place.
Yeah.
It's never going to happen. I will always see it value.
Half of it's making it easy too. You just don't, if you can be guaranteed no hassle, you'll spend the extra money.
Right.
You want to be there with your family. You don't have to apologize for going to a ritzy, whatever. The fact is you get to go there and focus on what you want to focus on and know that everything's handled.
Yes.
Why would you risk anywhere else?
It's really cool to see what high-end brands do. And I try to bring some of this into my business. I mean, look, I run a podcast, so it's different than running the Mandarin Oriental or something. But like you go to a nice brand and they'll have like, for the same hotel, they have s'mores every day at 4 p.m. outside. There's a fire pit and it's like on the ski slope. And you just go there and they're not like, what room are you in? So we can bill you $20 for graham crackers and chocolate and marshmallows. It's just quote unquote free with your ridiculously expensive hotel stay. But they just don't care about that kind of thing. But you go to like a medium tier thing and it's like, oh, yeah, we got to charge you for this.
For the lobby coffee.
For the lobby coffee. Like, oh, you want to use the gym? Oh, well, there's a surcharge here. And it's really crappy. It's a crappy thing to do. What I noticed other clever brands do is that, and I saw this in Vegas, there's like destination fees or something, or resort fees, and they have to charge these, I think, by law, which is annoying.
Is there a tax or something?
It's got to be something like that.
Local tax or something.
So what good brands do is they go, you are being charged a $70 destination fee. However, we're converting that to on-property credit so you can use it for anything from room service to breakfast to anything else that we have in the hotel. It can't be used for gratuities because that's like a cash thing, I guess.
Sure, yeah.
So I'm like, fair enough. So it converts into actual money that you can use to buy things from them that cost them basically nothing.
It's also transparency then.
Yes. And so you go, oh, you're basically turning the tax I had to pay into credit on your, like that makes you feel like it's a good brand.
Yep.
Whereas other places in Vegas are just kind of like, screw you, pal. You decided to come stay here. You got to pay the fees. Don't look at me. I don't make the rules.
Yeah. Well, especially in Vegas.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, dude. There's a reason why they should make it more inviting. Same with the airport. There's nothing wrong with having a restaurant in an airport that totally kicks ass on service to where people are like, dude, I'm going to come to the airport early because I know I can go to that whatchamacallit.
That's right. Detroit did that well. They remodeled the airport. And then I want to say they made a law that was like, you can't overcharge more than a certain amount. But like you can pay, I'm going to get this wrong, but they made some rule where it basically has to be the same pricing plus whatever 15% as it does outside the airport. So you don't go to the airport and pay 2x what it costs to eat at a restaurant. You just pay you pay the same amount plus whatever like it costs them to run at the airport. Now, the businesses hated this, right? Because they were like, oh my God, it's going to be so expensive. We're going to lose money and all the businesses are going to leave. Well, they didn't because they have a captive market anyway at the airport. So it just turns out that you can eat for a reasonable price at Detroit's airport and businesses hated that. And it's like, well, too bad.
And especially if it's a chain, I mean, it's almost, a loss leader is fine, but you're spreading the brand and whatever. It's all.
You're going to force me to try Ike's sandwiches. Oh, I actually like these. Maybe I'll go to one. Maybe I'll take my dad here when I get home. So I agree with you. It's a lot of this is short-term thinking, which is really bad in business and it's really bad economically. And unfortunately, like America's plagued by this, right? We're looking at tomorrow's stock price. We're looking at this 4-year term, this period. Businesses are always looking at short-term stuff.
Yep.
And it's not good. It's funny because I learned this lesson when I was like a teenager. I was selling something on eBay and I mailed it to this guy and he was a power seller, which I think, or super seller, whatever it was, where you have like 19,000 ratings because he basically, his job was like selling shoes on eBay.
Right.
And he was like, hey, I'm really disappointed in this. You didn't include the right cable. And I was like, I honestly don't even know. I didn't know that. And he's like, look, the right thing to do, you sound young. The right thing to do is to refund this and I can mail it back to you, less shipping. And I was like, just get rid of it. That's not something I'm going to use. Just get rid of it. And he's like, and I refunded him and he goes, you did the right thing. Remember this lesson for a while because this is how good businesses are run. And he's like, I would always do business with you again. And I was just like, it felt kind of good to do the right thing when I could have ripped this dude off by accident and then on purpose once he told me, I suppose.
Right.
But then also like my reputation and integrity is intact. And I was like, huh. So if I did have a business doing this, because he gave me a good review. He's like, this didn't work out, but the guy's honest.
Didn't
and I was
make
like,
money. You got some kind of bump.
Yeah, it was weird. And it was like, whoa, that felt surprisingly good. So I learned that lesson really early to just like kind of not screw people. And it feels good to operate that way. I could have made, I often think about this, like in media, the best way to make money is to be a dishonest peddler of lies that pander to either the extreme right or the extreme left in the United States. But that, I just find it hard. What's that phrase? Like you lie down with dogs, you get fleas. Yeah. There's kind of no way to become a right or left wing shill and pander to an extremist audience without also kind of becoming a piece of shit in the process. At least I don't think I could do it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's because you're one of the normal cats in the middle that may or may not agree with someone on my side of the table, but we're all in the middle. So when you're dealing with these extreme people, then that's half the problem. And these people that start those businesses and try to pander to that feel like that's a prominent part of the population, when in reality it's only the people that show up in the media because they're the most sensationalized, but they're not the majority.
It's I forget, there's a name for this. I think it's called the majority illusion or something like that, to your point, where you're like, wow, all these people must hate Jews because look at all the rhetoric around it. And then look, there's a lot of anti-Semitism. I'm trying to minimize that. I just did an episode on it.
Yeah.
But if you took a slice of real life people, like actual people in real life, the percentage is much, much lower. There's a guy named Todd Rose who I'm doing a show with, and he did a bunch of political research that was something like stated versus actual preferences. And usually this is a marketing thing where they're like, oh, people say they want smaller, more efficient cars, but what they do is they buy bigger, more masculine looking, more luxurious cars that do guzzle gas. So they don't really want, that's an example. I don't know if that's true or not.
Some kind of conscience issue.
So that example is kind of bunk because I just made it up, right? But his research is people say things like, yeah, we don't want this, or we want that, or we want this extreme position, and we don't want, but then when you actually are able to pull them in a way that controls for that, they're like, yeah, I don't really want to deport everybody who's here. Some people have need to be here for safety reasons. Like you poll people on immigration or economics, and if they're virtue signaling, they'll virtue signal in the direction that they think people want to hear. But when you control for that, they're like, well, no, I don't really want that.
Well, that actually gives you hope.
It does.
Because otherwise you would just think, ignore the extreme, because all the effort that you give in order to educate people and bring them into a good conversation and everything, you kind of have to just, or I don't know about you, but I pick a group of people that I kind of ignore because I can't really expend the energy to try to pull somebody that's on the extreme right or extreme left into this conversation. It's too much energy for the purpose behind it, which is to bring these other people and give them an opportunity. Yeah,
there are far more people in the center. The thing is, and I say we because I'm more centrist too, we're just not as loud. Like, look, I am because I got a microphone in front of me and I run the Jordan Harbinger show. But most people who are in the center, politics is not our whole personality. So like, and you can always tell, like I'll talk to somebody on Reddit, for example, and they'll be like, well, this, and this, and this, and Israel, this, and Gaza, that, and immigration, this, and immigration, that, and whatever. And I'm like, what's this person like in real life? And I'll go and look at their other comments and posts on Reddit. It's exclusively that. And I'm like, oh, your entire personality is the Israel-Arab conflict. Like this is, you are the guy that your kids don't talk to anymore. No one invites you to Thanksgiving because you can't shut the hell up about this topic and everyone is sick of you. So now you're on Reddit and TikTok talking about it. And it's like, if you're even indeed a real person, you are absolutely insufferable.
A loser.
But these are the loud voices. Right. So but then you get a room of 1,000 normal people. There's only one of those people there.
Yeah, and it's not sensational. Like I said, they're not going to put this conversation at the head of the newscast.
No,
I mean, because hey, I kind of understand your point. I still disagree, but I get where you're coming from.
That's right.
I mean, how much fun is that to watch? That's a almost wreck.
But people play politics like a team sport in this country. That's one of the biggest problems. If people on the extreme right or extreme left make a good point, I want to take that point in and use it myself and talk about it and learn something. A lot of these other folks, I'm unsubscribing because I hated your take on Jimmy Kimmel. And I'm like, well, one, it was a guest of mine that had a take on Jimmy Kimmel. I don't have it. So, and you're unsubscribed. You listen to the show for years and you're unsubscribing because you don't like what my guest said about a guy that you didn't know. Okay. Also, though, here's my theory. Those people aren't freaking unsubscribing. They're saying they are because they're sulking and they're whining. But sure, Jan, you're unsubscribing. Go ahead. Lock yourself in your echo chamber even further and see how that works out.
Yeah, and that's the problem. I mean, what do they expect from you? what a boring show it would be to bring people in or share your own opinions that are directly aligned. I mean, what's the
It's a
point?
bunch of people agreeing with each other like this podcast. No, thank you. Um,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, it just shocks me. I don't see politics as a team sport when people on, I'm trying to think of like when people get deported for no good reason by accident and they're U.S. citizens, that's bad too. Like when Jimmy Kimmel's free speech is when he gets government pressure to get taken off the air. That's not how this country's supposed to work. Like I can hold all these things together without any cognitive dissonance.
Right.
It's really not that hard unless you are deifying one side over the other. And it's like, that's just not a winning.
Yeah, because that's the
Case for
implication is that
democracy.
whatever you bring up with that point, saying, well, the government shutting Kimmel up is kind of a problem.
Yes.
Then it appears as though you're already picking a side.
That's what people said.
Was there
yeah.
any consternation before you even started talking about it? Were you just like, man, I'm not sure if I should bring this up, or were you just compelled to
I
just,
don't
I'm going
care.
to say whatever I want?
I'm going to say whatever I want. And the thing is, so government pressure to enforce speech or enforce a prohibition on speech that we don't like is bad.
Right.
It's bad to have the government push people to not be able to speak and use private companies as their own agency or government agencies to try and pressure private company. That is a textbook unconstitutional use of government authority.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter if it happens on the left or the right. And people like can't recognize that.
Because it's all circumstantial. If you just said what you just said about,
Yeah.
This is wrong, whether you do it to a person A or person B, but you didn't name anyone, then everyone would probably agree. Everyone with any common sense would agree in America that, that's how things work. But it's as soon as you plug in a name, then all of a sudden
people lose their minds.
Yeah.
They're not rational. They're thinking emotionally. So yeah, I had somebody like write a 1-star review that was like, I'm unsubscribing. And one, I don't believe you, but you know what? Two, the trash takes itself out, man, because if you don't understand why that's bad after listening to an episode about free speech and why it's important, are you really learning anything from the Jordan Harbinger show, or are you just whining and crying because I said something that you disagree with?
Yeah.
Because these are the same people on both sides, by the way, that will scream cry about the other side being snowflakes. Then they hear something that they disagree with and they lose their fucking minds. And I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of snowflakey. I'm just not gonna lie. That's kind of what snowflakey, sounds like.
Yeah.
When I see like the blue hair left wing people crying about something and you say they're snowflakes, I agree with you. But when you scream cry about something, I don't know, kind of pot calling the kettle black over here.
Right. What's the point?
Yeah. So I don't know. I think extremes on both sides, you're just silly.
Yeah.
Like, you're not operating in reality. And a lot of radical thinkers suffer from this. Like they say provocative stuff and they come up with provocative policy. Like we need to give all the land back to the Native Americans or something. And it's like, you can say that because you are not in charge of anything. So you don't have to deal with like how the country is going to look when you rearrange it by shaking everything up.
Yeah.
And we only kind of really need to look at history to see how horrible that is. You look at like the Bolshevik Revolution and it's like, yeah, we got rid of all the royals and the landlords. And it's like, how did that look? How did Mao's China look for the first little bit there? Not great. How did Pol Pot do when he tried to unplug Cambodia and reboot it from zero? That didn't work out so well. That's what these things look like in practice. So like radicals, go ahead and write your master's thesis over there, whatever, like university, and pat yourself on the back because you don't actually get to make any of these decisions.
Yeah.
You can just create a following online, professing what you would do if you were in charge.
As sophisticated as you make it sound, it's
Yeah.
just an uneducated approach.
100%.
You know.
You're a dog chasing a car that if you actually caught the car, you would have no fucking idea what to do.
And I'm one of them, but I'll be the first to admit it. Like, yeah, I may or may not have an opinion on how we deal with the Native Americans, but I don't know how that system's going to affect things. So I might bring the idea up, but I would bring it up with the expectation that we're going to have some dialogue here because I don't know what kind of ripple effect that's going to cause.
What's crazy to me is like a lot of times when you see the people that are arguing specifically and very hard for one specific radical point, I often go, wow, here's a classic example. I was really wondering, what is the Washington Redskins, right? The Commanders,
right?
They were made some thing about like, we should change the name back. And I was like, wow, people are really upset about this. And I asked one of my friends and I was like, look, I know you don't represent all Native Americans or anything like that, but like, what are people in your family and friends that what are they thinking about this? And they're like, I don't know, we all kind of like the name Redskins. And I was like, really? Because isn't that racist? And he goes, nah, the only people that really seem to think it's racist are the people I see on TV. And I was like, wait a minute. Are you telling me that the majority of people who think that this team name was racist are like white people from the suburbs? And he's like, yeah, that's kind of like the consensus around here.
Yeah.
And he lives, his whole family is native. So I was just like, it was a little bit surprising to me because I was like, and of course, if he said that to those people, they'd be like, well, you're just a self-hating, Native American.
They'd debate him too.
And he's like,
you're not allowed to debate me. I'm just telling you a fact from my own heart.
That's right. And it's like, it's crazy to me. It's just crazy to me. So it's like, you're this guy's, he basically told me, he's like, I'm not really allowed to have an opinion about this because like, it just makes people mad. And I'm like, you're not allowed to have an opinion on a racial epithet for your own ethnicity because you're going to make like random people that are not of your ethnicity angry. What planet am I on right now?
We're so upside down right now.
Yeah.
And obviously you've seen so much worse, and hearing it from you is more significant, I think, because of the fact that you've seen how some of these upside down countries actually function.
Oh yeah. Like you go to a place that actually puts these policies in and you're like, wow, this place is shit.
Yeah, so you can relate those things, and the fact that you kind of are sensitive to that is alerting to me that I may be right too, and judging some of these folks. Just again, not judging them, but if somebody's going to be an extremist, then whatever. Like I said, I don't have the time to try to convince somebody that's gone all the way off the rails. I
agree with you, man. I did an episode on human trafficking, something I thought would be very non-controversial, and the core of the episode is you are not, if you are a suburban, let's say white chick from Dallas, Fort Worth, you're not getting trafficked in a parking lot at Target. People would look for you. You would be a terrible person to traffic because all you need to do is scream for help or ask somebody to help you, and anybody would. People who are getting trafficked by their own parents, if they have them. They're getting trafficked because they're here illegally and there's pressure applied to them and they don't want to get deported. They're basically marginalized communities that are getting trafficked. It's generally not like wealthy kids from it does happen. It does happen. They get in compromising situations, but there's not 800,000 missing kids that have been drained of adrenochrome by the Democrats or the whatevers, the Jews or whatever. Like that's not a thing. And I got letters that were like, how dare you minimize this plague on society? And it's like, I'm not really minimizing it. I'm just not letting people go, look over here at the smoke and mirrors version of human trafficking. I'm pointing people to look in the actual direction where it really is happening. And this is according to like the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. I'm not pulling these statistics out of my butt.
Right.
They are thankful that shows like ours do episodes like this because when QAnon, for example, these kooks, when they say that there's thousands of children being trafficked in a basement of a ping pong restaurant in Washington, D.C., and people get upset about that and they focus on that, what they're not focusing on is look at all these actual people who are really being trafficked for real over here, where they're like girls from El Salvador that are being told they're going to get jobs in restaurants in Texas and then they're sex trafficked.
Right.
Like that's where it's actually happening.
And some of those ones that you're talking about, if they're the rich white girl, so to speak, or whatever that people worry about, they get trafficked when they lose the silver spoon. You have just as many problems when you grow up in some wealthy household or whatever, whether it's over religious or you don't have to work or whatever, and you come disenchanted as a kid, you're a teenager, and you find a boyfriend. That's usually that's usually a boyfriend that'll get you out into that situation.
It's true. So there's a woman who gave a TED Talk, and she went to my high school well before me, probably 10 or 20 years before me. So she's a little bit older now. She met a guy at the school. This is like a suburban upper middle class high school, public school. She went over to his house. She hooked up with him. He was like, hey, let me take some pictures of you. She was like, I don't really want that. And I think he was like, well, I already did, or whatever. I can't remember the exact circumstances. And then he was like, I'm going to show everyone unless you sneak out of your house at night and come meet me. And she was like, okay, fine. So she sneaks out of her house and she's like, I guess I have to keep hooking up with this guy. And he's like, no, you're going to hook up with one of my friends. And she had to keep doing that and doing that and doing that. And then so she was trafficked by that. And the guy was like, I'm going to show everyone these pictures. I'm going to show your dad. He's going to lose his job because his daughter is in porn. Like, he trafficked her that way. So it does happen.
It's the naivety of the
Yes.
age group of people
Yes.
too. Really. I mean, if you don't speak the language, yes, and you're El Salvadorian, then obviously you have less of an advantage because you
Yeah.
can't even communicate well.
That's right.
But that's it. I mean, you're just an ignorant 15-year-old that's sneaking out and going out with some dude that's 20.
Right.
That's how it starts.
And that happens. It's super rare. The real heavy duty, tons of trafficking happening is like drug addict parents pimping out their 13-year-old daughter, sadly,
Yep.
or people who have fake restaurant jobs. And they get a bunch of people coming in from, like I said earlier, El Salvador, and they say, "Hey, we need servers at my Salvadorian restaurant." And then you show up, and they don't have a job for you in Texas. It's actually in Alaska or whatever. I don't know, and it's not at a restaurant. Like that's the sort of industrial strength. It's not Taken with Liam Neeson, where your daughter goes to vacation in France and she ends up being bought by a guy in a kafia. That's just not real.
Yeah, and most dads aren't that badass either. So,
no, unfortunately,
we would go chasing, but I don't know.
Yeah, he got lucky a lot in that movie, right? Like he went to the airport, he spotted the guy right away. The guy jumped and killed himself in traffic, so he knew it was that guy.
Yeah.
Kind of followed the chain, found that. I mean, he really did have a unique set of skills.
Don't burst my bubble.
Yeah, there was still an element of luck. I don't know how easy it is to track somebody in that movie. Yeah. What the hell were we talking? I went way off the.
Well, that's okay.
The track
look,
here.
It's all interesting stuff, and
okay.
You're an interesting cat. So you're a Renaissance man, so to speak. I mean, you've been through. You have so many different things that they're in your favor. You've jumped from what could have been different careers and different things, but I admire that. I mean, there's a lot of people that, especially from our generation. I'm saying our generation. Sorry, I'm older than you, but my generation certainly that would go through the process. Supposed to hit college. You're supposed to get on and go do your blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And now it's still a little bit. Now it's so fickle that people don't feel like they want to actually learn through each of the processes. They still feel like, hey, I want to job hop and whatever, and I should feel like, on my whim that I need to do whatever I need to do. But I feel like you've experienced things that you've been able to actually build upon, and that's what makes a lot of your experience so admirable, despite the fact that it's so many different things.
Sure, yeah.
I think sometimes people don't get enough credit for doing that, but when you get older, then as long as you're surviving, you've got a lot more clout from your past and the things that you've accomplished at a young age.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, part of my hopping around, like I used to be an attorney before that. I did with the State Department. I was just trying to figure out something that would fit, and I was like, it wasn't like, oh, I got to find a fun job that pays $1 million a year. I mean, that happened by accident, I suppose, but I needed to find something that fit, and I just thought, like, I'm unemployable. I don't understand how people find careers that they like, and it turns out that I was always I needed to chart my own path here. It's not something, a creative endeavor, doing a podcast, things like that is not something that you learn about as an option. When you're a kid, it's like you want to either do what your parents do. My mom was a teacher. My dad was an auto worker. You know about teachers, you know about policemen, you know about firemen, you know about the military, you know about doctors and nurses. That's kind of it. Maybe you know about your neighbors or your best friend's parents doing something, but you kind of don't really understand what they do.
Yeah.
And that's it. You don't know that other jobs exist. And somebody asked me, like, when did you learn about what you wanted to do? And it's like, I think I went all the way through high school not knowing about most jobs. You're just like, oh, accountant, lawyer, doctor, nurse, firefighter, army, fireman, ambulance driver, waitress, waiter, dry cleaning. Like you start running out of ideas pretty quick. And you're like, somebody who makes cars, whatever. Like president of the United States. Like the list is not that much bigger when you're in high school. And then you go to college and it's then you go to college and it's almost the same. And then you graduate and everyone's like, what are you going to do? And you're like, dude, I have no idea. What are you asking me for?
Right.
I thought I was going to figure that out.
Well, because whatever your degree is what you're supposed to do for 30 years and then retire and then.
But you're like, bro, I took anthropology and German. What do you mean get a job? How do you even do that?
Yeah, but you sort of had a whack degree plan and all that kind of stuff, which was great, which is kind of, you're a creative at heart though, right?
Yeah,
I mean, as a kid, you were.
But I was never like an artist, so I never considered myself creative because it's like, oh, I can't draw. But I didn't think that building things or talking into a microphone was a creative endeavor. So I didn't even understand that. Like my friend works in the movie business and he was a prop master and now a set dresser, something. He makes droids for Star Wars, basically,
cool.
and more. but he was always an artist, and he was always building stuff and making stuff and sculpting stuff. So it was like really clear he was going to do that.
Mhm.
I was always like, I don't know what I'm going to do, man. He's like, you're going to be a spy or something. And I came pretty close. But
so being a spy would be a creative, though.
yeah, I suppose.
You one of those weird things where you combine a type A with a creative, and that's kind of where you end up. So, and maybe a starting point would be, without going too deep, because I know we only have so much time, but
Sure.
you've got the kidnapping stories, which are completely wild. The first one, the Mexican was the first one, and the Serbian the second one. I'd love to hear a little bit about those, just to lay the groundwork for the people who don't know those, and maybe touch on the Mexican one as briefly as we can, so that I can get a little more detail on the Serbian one, because I'd like to learn a little bit about how those experiences affect the every step that you took after that, because I think a lot of what you've done is build on those experiences.
Yeah, sure. So in Mexico, I'm 45 now, but I was 20 in Mexico. So it was a while, a quarter century ago. So I lived in kind of like the hood on these people's roof. They had like a semi-finished room on the roof, and it was just a Mexican family. And I was working for this nonprofit where I had basically nothing to do all day. And I was like, when should I show up? They're like, whatever. And I was like, 8? They're like, no, that's too early. I remember once I showed up at 9:30 and there was no one there in the office. Like, when do these people work? Yeah. So I was working at this nonprofit in Mexico. This is Mexico City. And I got in what I thought was a taxi. I was going to meet my friend at a bar, and the taxi was driving in the wrong direction. In Mexico City, it's pretty easy to know where you're going, because down towards the center is a bowl. It's a bowl shape. Down towards the center is the presidential palace and things like that. And then up higher on the bowl is like air pollution and bad neighborhoods. And then as you get further up and up and up and up and over the mountains, it's like you're not going towards the center. You're going the opposite direction. So we were driving the opposite direction, and I was like, this is not the right way. I don't have to know. He's like, no, you don't live here for very long. This is the right way. And I'm like, no. And then if he had said there's an accident or this is blocked or there's a road closure, that would have been different. But I was like, no, you're just bullshitting me. And then after a while, he's like, I got to ask directions. That's why we're going the wrong way. And I was like, so you changed your story. Also, I'm asking to go to the center of Mexico City. You don't need directions. This is like if I was in New York and I was like, take me to Times Square. And the guy's like, I got to get some directions.
Right.
Like, what are you talking
cab
about?
driver of all people asking for directions.
I was like, what are you talking about? None of this makes any sense. So I knew something was up. And this is before smartphones. So I was like, okay, I'm not screwing around on my phone looking at Instagram. I'm not getting distracted by my phone. I'm not retreating into it. All I had was me and my thoughts. And I was like, this is not right. So I was like, just take me back and I'll pay you. And he's like, nah, we're almost there. And I was like, well, that's definitely not true. And then I was like, just let me out here. And he's like, no, you need to go to the ATM to get money, because I told him I don't have cash. I need to go to the ATM before I could pay him. So he didn't think I was just like running out of his cab at the end. And I was like, okay, this guy knows that I'm a gringo, that I have a bunch of credit cards on me, that I need to go to an ATM and get cash, so he knows I can take cash out. I'm pretty sure I'm being like kidnapped right now, but I'm not sure how to get out of this car. So I try to open the door at the next red light, and I realize it's got like the child lock on it, and so the door won't open. And also there's a physical lock, but it had been cut low enough that when it was locked, you couldn't get your fingers in there.
In the door, like one of the old school little buttons that pops up. Yeah.
Yeah, it was buried in there. And I was like, it could have fallen off because it's an old car, but this is pretty suspicious. Shouldn't the door open when I pull the handle? And then I was like, oh, I'm trapped in the car. So I was seated behind the passenger seat. I slid behind the driver, and I was just to change seats in his mind. And then he stops in front of this like gross cinder block building. There's like no lights. It was just a really ghetto neighborhood. And I was like, don't get out of the car. Again, no cell phones. So he couldn't give anybody a heads up we were coming. I was like, do not get out of the car. Keep driving. He's like, no, this is my friend's place. I'm going to ask for directions. I have to go to the bathroom. I was like, this is all bullshit. Do not get out of the car. So I put my hand between him and the door, and he didn't see that. I don't know why. I guess he was paying attention to me talking, not my hand.
Looking in the mirror or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So I put my hand between him and the door, and he's like, relax, man, relax. Cause I was like getting aggressive, and I was like, keep driving. You're not getting out of this fucking car. And then he made like a fast one for the door, but I was 20. I'd been eating carne asada and going to the gym twice a day because I had nothing better to do. And this guy was sitting on his fat ass in a cab all day, and he was like 50 something. So he made a fast one for the door, and I pulled him back in with one arm, and I just choked the shit out of him until he stopped moving with the seat between the seat, which is actually really hard to do because normally when you're choking somebody, you pull them against your chest.
It's leverage.
But you have a car seat in between you. So I'm like doing like a full on bicep preacher curl with this guy's neck, and my forearm across his face. So he's thrashing around and kicking and like trying to bite me and stuff. And he just passed out. Then I'm like, well, shit, now what? I'm still in the backseat of the car. I got an unconscious guy in the front. He's going to wake up in like 10 seconds, less. So I crawl between seats. I open his door, throw his limp ass body, fat body out of the car, realize I can't drive a stick shift. And there's like a Volkswagen Beetle from 1968 or something. So I was like, shit. And it's got this giant stick shift. I'm like, I have no clue how this thing works.
You can probably run faster than the Beetle anyway.
Right. And I'm like, I know vaguely how to drive a stick, but this is an old car. It's got a trick. The clutch has to go 3/4 of the way in, not all the way in. You got to wiggle it a little before you put it in drive. Like every old car with a stick has some weird shit like that. And I was like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
He's going to wake up and start screaming any second now. So I took the keys out and just ran. That dude woke up a few seconds later. I heard him yelling. And I was like, run. I ran until I hit a main road. I guess they either didn't catch me, couldn't catch me, whatever. Or maybe he was more severely injured than I thought.
And you still had his keys, though.
I threw the keys. I realized I should have kept the keys. That was a mistake I made. But he didn't get the keys because I thought if he finds them, he's going to drive after me.
Right.
But I threw them, and it probably took him, 10 minutes to find them. Maybe he's still looking for him. Who knows? But I could hear him or somebody screaming, and then they didn't come after me. Thank God. And I got to a main road, and I'm trying to wave down cars, and I remember nobody stopped. And I was like, big surprise. I was sweating through my shirt, and I had like frosted blonde tips because it was 1999 or 2000, whatever it was. Yeah, it was 2000.
Oh, you were hip.
Yeah, I was hip. I was wearing Banana Republic chinos, but I looked like shit. And like nobody would stop for the white guy in the middle of the hood. And then finally this guy stops, and it was like him and who I thought at the time was his daughter, but like 2020 hindsight is probably his girlfriend because that's how they roll down there sometimes. And I was like, let me get in the car. I've been kidnapped. And like the crap Spanish that I was panic Spanish. And he was like, no, you're not getting in my car. I thought you were like injured or something. And I was like, they kidnapped me. I'll ride in the trunk. I was like, I'll ride in the trunk. And he was like, all right, if you're willing to ride in the trunk, you're probably telling the truth.
Yeah.
And the girl was kind of like, obviously he's telling the truth. Like, look at him. Look at where he is, what he's wearing.
Right.
So he didn't make me ride in the trunk. He let me sit in the back seat. He's like, where am I taking you? And like, what happened? So I told him, I was like, what happened? Blah, 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 blah. And then he's like, where am I taking you? I was like, take me to the police station. And he was like, let me explain something to you. I am definitely not taking you to the police station. One, I don't want any part of this. Two, if that guy is connected at all to the police, you are going straight back here, or best case, you're getting locked up. Do you know if that guy's even alive? Did you injure him? And I was like, I don't know. And they're like, you should not go to the police. They're like, what you should do is go to the airport now. But you need your stuff, your passport and your luggage. So we'll drop you off at a metro station. I was like, that's fine. So I took the subway, and then I took another like little school bussy thing back to my barrio neighborhood, and I got my shit and I moved.
You bolted.
Yeah. Because he had a good point. What happens if the person I heard screaming was his friend and that cab driver had a heart attack and died because I choked him? I don't need to go to jail for murder in Mexico with corrupt cops.
Yep.
And were the cops in on the kidnapping thing? Like, is that a gang that kidnaps foreigners and holds them for ransom?
And
something?
now that's quite possible.
Totally possible. Yeah.
Were you aware then that it was in the cards that the cops could be?
I just hadn't thought about it because I was 20 and it was like my first month in Mexico
most
City,
of us
probably.
Wouldn't have. I mean, I'm just curious. Yeah.
But yeah, I knew cops were corrupt because I remember them being like, we want $10 because you were jaywalking. And I'm like, no, I wasn't. And they're like, dude, we're hungry. Just give us $10. And I was like, oh, that's how this works. I just have to give you money and because you're hungry and you're broke. Okay. Like that was the cops in Mexico
arrest
City.
me if I don't.
Right. Or just like, I don't know, harass me or something. That was a huge change for me because being from the United States, if the cops tell you to stop, you're like, oh my God, what did I do? They explain it to you, they write you a ticket, or they take you to, they lock you up. That didn't happen to me in the States, but you get a ticket for jaywalking or you're parking or whatever it is.
All documented.
Smoking and throwing it on the ground, whatever it is, littering, like my friend got a ticket for. You get that. It's all documented. You get a copy of it. You have a court date, all this stuff. Right? I'd been pulled over for speeding before once, the only time in my life, and it was in the United States and it was in Alabama. And the cops didn't harass me. They just gave me the ticket. Whatever, right? That's not how it works in countries like Mexico, Bosnia. Got pulled over in Bosnia, and the guy was like, "You're speeding," and it was like, "Nope, that's not true at all." But here you go, right? In Ukraine, one of the first things they told me, this is also like 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago now. One of the first things they told me is never get in if the cops talk to you, ignore them. And I thought, surely you're kidding. How am I going to get away with that? They're like, you can respond, don't get in the car. I was like, okay.
Wild.
So a buddy of mine, so I'll tell you. So a buddy of mine came to visit, and he was also visiting Ukraine, came to my city, Odessa. And he was like, hey man, blah, blah, blah. I was like, hey, look, everyone told me this. I don't understand it, but they told me if the police talk to you, don't get in the car. And he's like, you know what's funny? The family I'm staying with told me that same thing. I can't believe that. That doesn't make any sense. And I was like, I know, right? 2 days later, 4 days later, whatever it was, he's like, you're never going to believe what happened to me. The cops yelled at me for something. And I was like, what? And he's like, get in the car. So I got in the car. And then he was like, if you want to get out of the car, you had to pay me $100. And I was like, oh shit. So what happened? He's like, I paid him $100. I was in a police car. What else was I going to do? And I was like, oh, that's why they tell you never get in the car. This must be a common thing that happens to tourists all the time.
And it's a tell if you can afford it. Then you're a target again.
Exactly. So I told my host family, I was like, my friend got robbed by the police. And they were like, how? I was like, well, they said something and then he got in the car and they were like, we told you never get in the car. I was like, I didn't get in the car. My friend got in the car. They're like, you didn't tell him? I'm like, well, I did, but he didn't believe me. So he got in the car and they're like, oh, stupid, never get in the car. And I'm thinking, how do the police actually solve crime if everyone knows to never get in the car? It's like, you just have to resist arrest every time if you actually commit a crime.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. Ukraine, I know it's not PC to say this, but Ukraine was super corrupt when I was there. The people were awesome. I'm not saying that the government isn't worth helping or the fight against the Russians isn't worth supporting. I'm just saying that place was corrupt as shit when I was there. I got robbed by customs on the way out. The customs agents, they went through all my stuff. They took a bunch of my money. They took a bunch of stuff that I bought. They told me I wasn't going to fly. Then they rushed my ass onto that plane at the last second. Because they didn't want me stuck there with no flight. That's even worse. Because then it's like, okay, I guess I got to go to the U.S. Embassy and tell them exactly what happened.
Right.
And then your boss is going to be like, why the hell is this American stuck here with an expired visa, you fucking knuckleheads?
Yeah.
You know, like, and he says you robbed him. Oh, and by the way, he's a journalist, you stupid nincompoops. I hope you enjoyed the $120 you stole from him.
Yeah.
Dummies. So that was the thing. And I remember like that whole thing happening and it was just like, wow. And on the flight home or to London, because I had a layover, this woman next to me, this Ukrainian woman, she was like, are you okay? Because I was like shaking and angry and like upset. And I was like, I just got robbed by the customs agents. Again, I'm like 22 years old. She's like, you know what? That happened to me too. Last time I came back, I had brought Legos for my son and they were like, you can't import these. I have to confiscate them. And she was like, why don't you take this too, you dirty son of a bitch? And she dumped out all of her underwear and started throwing it in his face. She had like a major, and I said, wow, is that like a strategy? And she goes, no, I'm just sick of these guys. They've been doing this my whole life, treating us like this. Yeah. And I thought, she goes, that's why I live in London now. She goes, because I'm sick of this bullshit. There's no future here. And I thought it actually made me feel quite a bit better. I don't know if I should admit that, but it made me feel better that they also abuse the local population and they didn't just single me out as an American. But looking back now as a grown-up, as an adult with a fully formed brain, it's actually really awful that their own authorities treat them so badly. Like that's when people complain about the United States. I'm not saying there's nothing valid to complain about here, but when people are like, we're oppressed, this is an authoritarian regime. I'm like, look, prioritizing and preserving our freedom is very important. I will never argue with you on that. But I think we're pretty far away from being an authoritarian dictatorship or regime. Ukraine was an authoritarian regime, and that couldn't hold a candle to something like what we got going on in Mali, Africa, other parts of Africa, North Korea, Cuba. Those are real dictatorships and real authoritarian regimes. Ukraine was not that bad then and is much better now. And the United States is look, we're not the freest country in the world, especially when you compare it to Western Europe. We're doing okay. And we need to preserve those freedoms at all costs. Don't get me wrong. But like, the people who there's a lot of people. I was talking about my show about Iran and North Korea, and this was a call-in show. I don't do that anymore, but it was like a special thing that some company, this app had like paid me to do call-in shows on their app. And this guy was like, don't you think it's a little ethnocentric to say we have a better system of government than places like Iran and North Korea? And I was like, no, that is literally, how old are you? And he was like, I'm 22 and I think it's wrong to say. And I was like, have you ever visited a place that has a hostile government where the people are afraid of the government? Have you ever? And he's like, no, but I've been to India and I've been to and I was like, dude, I encourage you to get a visa and go to Iran. Do it. You can go. This is years ago.
Right.
You can go. You will be relatively safe when you do. You're going to love the Iranian people. You're going to find out that you are fucking free in Alabama or Idaho or wherever you live. Yeah. It is not even close. Go to Iran and go to Cuba and talk to the people there about how they feel living in a regime like that. And if they're not too scared to tell you the truth, you're going to learn some shit. When I went to Cuba, you're not supposed to do that, but I went anyway because, YOLO. I remember guys being like, welcome to Alcatraz. And I was like, what do you mean? Look over your shoulder. And they're like, we can't leave. We can't do anything. I'm poor. I can't get anything. I'm never going to get ahead. My kid wanted to go fishing because he saw it on TV. You know where I can get a fishing pole? Nowhere. I was like, you don't have fishing poles? He's like, no, I've never seen one in real life. I was like, I couldn't believe it. And he goes, I fish with a chain. And sure enough, on the beach, I saw guys fishing with chains. And I asked him, why don't you use a fishing pole? He goes, I've never seen that, only on television. Can you believe that?
In Cuba?
In Cuba. These guys had never seen a fishing pole in real life in Havana. Wow. I was like, surely I'm just misunderstanding this guy.
Right.
Nope. I used a translator. I asked the person with us who spoke English and Spanish, and he's like, yeah, he's never seen a fishing pole. I was like, surely this is an outlier. And then the next day I had that conversation with the guy in the car, taxi driver, who told me he'd never seen a fishing pole. And that just shocked me. And I remember our tour guide was like super pro Cuba, right? Because he's running a government tour. And he was talking about the healthcare. And we made this stop at a village and used the restroom on our bus. And I was like, hey, man, the kids that we saw, they were wearing dirty underwear, no shirt, no pants, no shoes. Come on. And he was like, look, people in villages, they do that. They have everything they need at home. I was like, why did you make us give them pens and pencils then? Well, it's hard for them to get products that are manufactured elsewhere because they live in a rural area and there's not that many deliveries. And I was like, this is just smacks of bullshit. Of course, 5 years later, that guy, he escaped to Miami. As soon as he got his passport, he flew to Miami. He never went back. And I emailed him and I said, hey, man, you said a lot of positive things about Cuba. And he goes, what do you expect, man? You expect me to tell you the truth when I'm a government tour guide? My goal is to escape. I escaped. I was like, I got to interview this guy. He was like, no, thank you. I don't need to be on the radar. No.
Even being in the U.S., he was still paranoid.
He had family back there, and he's like, I do not need them to have any more trouble than they're already going to have when people find out I'm not coming back.
Yeah. The suffrage. Oh, man.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. And I remember my dad was, in his funny way, was like, I don't see people swimming the other way, And I was like, you can't say that, Dad. He's 80. He can say whatever he wants.
Yeah.
But it's true. Whenever people will argue, they'll be like, Cuba has this and they have that. Look, I'm not saying there's nothing great about having certain things. And like, people do need universal health care. I highly doubt Cuba really has great health care for everyone because it saw a lot of people with no teeth. It saw a lot of people who, didn't have clothing. So, but my dad has a point. I don't see people swimming the other way. Wonder why that is.
What's it take? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Success around the sandbox with second grade rules. A confident fake to make you do what they want when they won't pay the fool. A diplomatic face is the one to see you through. And don't let those bigots take you off your game, but just to let them loose. Just sit here in the front seat, baby, ain't that sweet? Take a little honey from the